everyone, to this week's Really Big Fan Pod. We're getting right into it this week. I'm your host, ChZuck, joined by my wife, ACRONYM.
Hello.
And headlines.
Really? Well, we did do all of our banter before that. Do I need to cut the banter and move it
and
over?
Put it into the,
and then
the show.
And headlines. And you didn't even... Headlines.
There, now we can stop.
So you have no problem with me stealing your jokes, just not leaning in on bits. Got it.
I'm not saying there are hard rules. I'm just,
You're making this up as you go.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Uh-huh.
I love today.
Yeah?
Already, because it's one of those days where you wake up and you check the internet and it gives you a bunch of stuff to look forward to.
Yeah.
I love those days. It always seems to happen like a bunch of stuff on the same day too. It's never like one and then tomorrow is another one and then it's always like two or three things. Bang!
I honestly think that they do that on purpose. It's like they find out that there's an announcement coming and then they're like, I'm going to put an announcement on top of the announcement because my announcement's better. And then they're all the same day. I know festivals do that.
Yeah, well, yeah. Obviously.
Festivals, it's like when they find out Coachella's dropping, everyone else drops their lineup like the same day or the day before.
Right.
Because they're like, oh shit, we got to get it out there before they start talking about Coachella. Or, oh shit, they're talking about Coachella. Well, we're going to get festival.
Yeah.
And that'll trigger it. It's all SEO.
I didn't think about that. Way to ruin it.
Sorry. I mean, we could just rewind.
Well, anyways, woke up this morning, looked at Twitter, and found out Scott Pilgrim the Anime starts in November.
Woo!
On Netflix. They've got the teaser trailer up. It is November 19th, I think.
So
November 17th.
So it looks like they're still including stuff that actually happened in the movie.
Yeah.
But then putting more around it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because there was stuff that the movie came out before the last book came out, so the endings were different. But there was also a bunch of other plots and some other characters too, which will be interesting to see who gets cast as those other characters to join all of the crew that's going to be in this, from the original movie.
I remember seeing there was like a fight in the library, which wasn't in the movie. So it's like that's what really went, wait a minute, that didn't happen. But I saw Matthew Patel.
Yeah.
So
the whole fight with the ninja girl.
Mm-hmm.
is completely different. That story arc is completely different in the comics, and
Gotcha.
I would imagine will be in the anime.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very exciting. Looks very cool. And the other thing I saw before I sat down in here is that the downloadable content for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge game, which will include will bring Usagi Yojimbo and Karai to the game as playable characters, as well as give you a whole bunch of skins for the turtles, like black and white skins, and then skins from other comics and cartoons. That hits August 30th.
Cool.
So it gives us an excuse to go back and play that game some more.
I have no clue who those other characters are.
Usagi Yojimbo is the rabbit samurai that was created by Stan Sakai, and had a couple of crossovers with the turtles. And Karai is, in some continuities, the daughter of Shredder, but she takes over the Foot Clan once the Shredder is gone. And she's more of an anti-hero. She kind of takes him legit.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's going to be fun. More characters to play, and like I said, more reasons to go through that game again.
Interesting.
Blast.
I got one for you, fairly short. If you've seen anything happening with Keke Palmer lately, you will know that her baby daddy had a fit when Usher sang to her at a concert in Vegas. I don't know if this came across at all. He got close to her. He obviously put his arm around her. He was serenading her. Like Elvis used to do with the freaking scars, right? He had a fit. You shouldn't be doing that. Like acting all like you can't hug Usher. You can't be serenaded by Usher. That's going against me.
He's feeling threatened.
Yeah, and of course a lot of the male population of the internet felt the same way and felt he was in the right.
Boo.
Then
don't go to an Usher show.
Fast forward. Well, he wasn't there. So that was the other thing. She went out
don't
and looked hot without him.
Yeah, when your girl says I'm going to see Usher, then get in that fight right there and then so she can break up with you and go see fucking Usher.
Yeah. Well, fast forward to now, because that happened a bit back, he released his album artwork or single artwork for his song Boyfriend, and Keke Palmer is on the front cover.
Ah!
And she's also in the music video.
Amazing.
And she's laying in bed.
How did her baby daddy not know all this stuff happened? Like, that was a job that she took and went and did.
Oh, no, she did this after the fact. Like, this happened, the thing with the concert probably happened like 3 to 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
So he probably capitalized on that opportunity and said, hey, do you want to be in this video? Do you want to be on the thing? And then did it. So it's either that or she already filmed this stuff and then went to the concert and then this drama happened. So now he says he's going to become an actor and he's moved on. And there is a clip
They're not together anymore?
No, they broke up right after that happened.
Good for her. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, right after that happened and he threw a tantrum and was blasting her online. She did not take it whatsoever.
No.
So there is a clip that was uploaded from a part of the video where she sees her phone and she looks at it and she's like, oh, I missed the show. And she's talking to somebody on the phone. She goes, I'm just so tired. I mean, after all, I'm a mother. So I am on Keke Palmer's side.
Same here.
Many people are not, but I'm like, fuck that dude, man.
Yeah. Fuck that dude can fuck off forever.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
Keke Palmer's a badass.
The only reason he wants an acting career is so he can bone other ladies and try and make her jealous.
Yeah. He's always going to be Keke Palmer's ex.
Yep.
And look at, Britney Spears' ex, Kevin Federline. Is always going to be Britney Spears' ex.
Count yourself lucky that you were not watching wrestling when Kevin Federline was wrestling John Cena for like a hot minute.
Awful.
It was the worst.
Yeah, I mean, that guy has zero talent other than taking Britney's money, so that's a whole nother story.
The worst. So we talked last week about Across the Spider-Verse is out on streaming services. You can rent it.
Yes.
So far, it's not on a streaming service where you pay your subscription and you can just watch it as much as you want. But people are finding that there are more changes in the Across the Spider-Verse on the thing. There are lines that were either added or taken out of it too. And the reason for that, according to one of the guys that worked on it, Chris Miller, is that, they were obviously working on it right up to release. And he said that within those few weeks between like it getting approved for release and then releasing it, the team would continue to come up with things that made the movie more interesting or change the dynamic of a whole scene. So that's why they continue to add things, which is also why there were different versions of it showing up in theaters, is because people were getting like different cuts of it, and now this is the home cut, the home video cut.
That's so weird though, because it's like if you liked the movie and then you get it at home and then it changes, you're like,
Right. One of the ones is when Miles says he's going to do his own thing at the theater. He also said, "I'm going home," and that is the line "I'm going home" is cut from the home version.
Weird.
Because "I'm gonna do my own thing" is like, that's a great
if you just left it, if you just left it like that, absolutely.
One of the other changes somebody at IGN pointed out in a TikTok is that the alternate universe's Miles braids are longer.
Weird.
For whatever reason.
That's it. It's like the whole thing is just becoming an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, exactly. Like every time you watch the movie now, you're gonna be like, "That was there the whole time, right?"
I already have that problem with other things where I feel like somebody tells me, "Well, that was never changed," even though I thought it changed. And I'm like, I feel like I'm being gaslit right now.
I know what conversation you're talking about. That's why I'm laughing.
Yes, I can't talk about that conversation yet, but it happened.
Right.
Randall Park, who you know from
The Office.
The Office.
He was Asian Jim.
Yep. Obviously he was in the
Ant-Man movies
stuff. Yeah,
yep.
He's all through that. Anyway, he says that Hollywood keeps taking the wrong lessons from successful films.
Yep.
I love this quote. For example, Barbie is a massive blockbuster and the idea is make more movies about toys. No, make more movies by and about women.
Right.
I'm just letting everyone know that I'm a Randall Park stan. That's all it is.
Randall Park is pretty great.
He's pretty great.
He's a pretty great dude.
That one movie that we watched that was with
Keanu.
Yeah.
With Keanu when he walks in.
Amazing. Yes,
So
exactly.
Good. So fun. Yeah, and at the same time though, I'm all for more movies about toys. I want to see the Stretch Armstrong movie. I want to see the movie about Jax.
Well, he's pointing it out because after the movie did such gangbusters, Mattel was like, "We're gonna make all these movies now," and it's like, no.
It's the same thing Hasbro did when Transformers hit. They're like, "Make a Battleship movie! Quick, get that GI Joe movie out there!"
Yeah, it's gonna end up being one of those things, I'm sure, again, after we watch the last Transformers movie with the ending.
Which one? Oh, yeah, right. Yeah,
I'm still trying to be vague about it because I'm still thinking that people haven't seen it yet. So
I'm looking forward to the Mattel cinematic universe.
Oh, geez, I'm not.
Where they figure out a way to make the old Star Wars figures canon with Barbie.
Oh, God.
Meaning that the original Star Wars movies are now part of the Mattel cinematic universe, whether they want to be or not.
The only way I will accept that as part of it is if Harrison Ford voices the Han Solo doll.
That would be funny.
And is just like a crotchety old man.
I wonder if Harrison Ford has done voice work and how much, because it's one of those things like Bill Murray did the voice work for Garfield, and then somebody asked him about it in an interview. He's like, "Yeah, I'm never going to be in front of a camera again. It's so much easier."
Yeah. Actually, Harrison Ford was also in the news real quick because they named a snake after him, I think. Yeah, it was it says Harrison Ford's legacy continues to grow in the animal kingdom with a new species of the snake, I can't even say it, Tachymendius harrisonfordi.
Come on, Tony, tell us how we said that word.
Yeah, right.
Tachymendianos.
Yep, named for the yeah, and he said, "These scientists keep naming critters after me, but it's always the ones that terrify children. I don't understand. I spend my free time cross-stitching. I sing lullabies to my basil plants so they won't fear the night." I love Harrison Ford so much.
So the last story I've got for you is about Robert Kirkman, who dropped the trailer for the next season of Invincible about a month ago at Comic-Con. And it's got a whole bunch of new voices in it. But one of the voices in particular he talked about in an interview was Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus Prime, and said in an interview, "Working with Peter Cullen was a huge test for my professionalism. Just flat out every fiber of my being was screaming, 'Don't ask him about Optimus Prime. Don't talk about Optimus Prime. What are you doing? Just be a professional. Come on.'"
Oh my God, that does kind of lead into what our interview is about. Where we had a conversation. I'll let you guys just see that.
Yeah,
but I got two more things real quick for you today.
All right.
Taking Back Sunday did a backyard concert in Long Island.
All right.
And that's like where they're from. But like the footage is insane because they're just on someone's back deck.
Yeah.
And people are crowd surfing and stuff. And I'm like, man, I would give my left tit to be there. So there's one thing. My second one is they have finally pulled the trigger and her contract expired. Lacey Evans is officially gone from the WWE, and I'm going to have a party to celebrate. And that party is me posting on every single alert about it that she is not Limitless Macy. The only limitless person is Keith Lee, and I am going to badger everyone.
Yeah.
Because fuck her.
I mean, it's mean. Someone's out of a job.
No, she's happy about it. She's gonna go and make gangbusters.
Well,
she's bragging.
Yeah.
She's totally bragging online about it and sticking her whole ass out. So, like let her go do that. And I'm like, see ya.
She hasn't been on my television in so long.
No, more people have seen her in catering.
I remember I didn't like her, but I also have forgotten the exact reasons, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
Well, and then we've apparently Ronda Rousey's out too, so
yeah, well,
that's where that clip is circulating of New Jack going, "Too less we got to worry about."
I sent you that because I knew you didn't like either of those ladies, and you love New Jack.
Yeah, I retweeted it prior to that, so you probably shared it to me from me. Because I was like, in context, he's talking about O.J. Simpson killing people, right. But in this particular context, hilarious.
Well, I forgot to mention at the top of the show, but our interview today is with Chris Brown, owner of Comics and More in Madison Heights, because he is a huge fan of the Bill and Ted franchise, as am I, and we're hoping to turn you into a big fan of the Bill and Ted franchise before today is over. So we'll be right back with that interview here on the Really Big Fan Podcast. back, everyone, to the Really Big Fan Pod. It is ChZuck and Acronym hanging out in the studio, and I'm super psyched because this week we are talking to owner of Madison Heights comic book store, Comics and More, and giant fan of Bill and Ted, the franchise about two surfer dudes that travel in time in a phone booth. I'm talking about Mr. Chris Brown. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Well, glad to be here. Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You are an absolute joy to talk to. In fact, I've come to your store and talked to you nearly from open to close.
I always enjoy it, though. I always
Yes.
enjoy our talks. Now we're recording them for everyone else to hear.
Exactly. So hopefully we can be just as entertaining now as we are in public.
Well, we're our only audience, so I know we're entertaining to us. We'll just, everyone else will have to go with it.
It's true. I feel like most of our friends that listen to this at this point are on the same page, so we're all good.
Yeah, our audience is in like the double digits, and all of them just like hanging out with us. So we're just trying to introduce all of our friends to all of our other friends via this podcast.
Mhm.
Awesome.
So yeah, I got to talk to you and I was like, hey, do you want to be on the podcast? And you said, yeah, what do you want to talk about? And you gave me three things. And I thought that this was probably the subject that the three of us would have the most to discuss. And that is the Bill and Ted franchise. Why don't you get our listeners up to speed? Where did you first meet Bill S. Preston, Esquire, and Ted Theodore Logan?
So this story is awesome. I love telling this story. It goes back. So the movie came out in 1989. So we're gonna have to go back to 1988 when I'm a 12-year-old kid. The Universal Mall was having this thing. It was winter. It had to have been like November. I believe it was cold out. I assumed I was going to run into other friends. My parents dropped me off at the mall where they are doing some kind of Nickelodeon promotion with Tone Loc. So all of these children are running around the mall to see Tone Loc. Now, the reason I remember it was winter is because he never showed up. His plane didn't make it. There was some kind of weather issue. He wasn't there. I do remember at some point, however, running into two girls that I'd gone to elementary school with, Jenny Jajuga and Connie Farley.
Wow.
And at some point, I don't remember which one of these girls reached into the fudge that was provided by the Double Dare people and smacked me across the face. So boy, am I glad that we didn't live in a time with cell phones when a 12-year-old, Chris Brown would have pictures essentially in blackface at a Tone Loc concert.
Oh,
so really, really glad that didn't happen. I had to run to the bathroom to wipe fudge off of my face. But at some point in time, I have to call my parents to come pick me up. And there was some local movie promotion that walks with these posters and sets them down on a trash can lid and walks away from them. Oh my God, what is this? Who are these two dudes in this phone booth? What on earth is happening? And I grabbed one and I rolled it up, and you couldn't look these things up online. There was no way to see a trailer or anything. So the first time it was this, like I said, back in 1988, when you could just drop the 12-year-old off at the mall. Nobody cared. It's fine. They're going to see Tone Loc. It's Funky Cold Medina. Who could be harmed possibly by any of this? So rolled that poster up, and I had it hanging on my wall in my childhood bedroom forever. I did at some point ask my mom if it was still there. She's like, "Oh, honey, I think we threw that thing out." I'm like, ah! But yeah, and then when the movie finally came out, of course, all the trailers were on television, and you've got this shot of Abraham Lincoln going, "Party on, dudes!"
Yeah.
And it was the coolest thing ever to me, because as last time you were in the store, ChZuck, we were talking about the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And my favorite was always Michelangelo because of the dudular aspects.
Sure.
So Bill and Ted sort of boiled it down into kind of a more relatable thing than a turtle. It was like two knuckleheads. Well, I could relate to knuckleheads for sure.
And they're bad at history, and they're not doing so well in high school, and that can be relatable.
Well, history was actually one of my favorite topics, which is part of why it was that then became so appealing to me. Is they're traveling through history and finding out all this stuff. Again, it was kind of like the knucklehead version of Indiana Jones, except instead of excavating things from the present that were the past, even though it was the past to us while we were watching it, they're literally just going and exploring these things and have no idea what they're doing. And I absolutely that completely appealed to younger me and old me.
So when it was in the theater, did you just go and see it the one time, or did you go multiple times back to see it again?
So now when it came out, I would have been 13. So not necessarily, now movies were a lot cheaper then, but you also only had so much. So a movie is like a couple comic books. So I believe I only saw that one in the theater once, because if I'm also not mistaken, I believe the first movie that I ever saw in the theater more than once was Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Wow.
That was also a fave. Loved that one. By that one, I think I was 15 or 16. But yeah, I only saw Bill and Ted once in the theater, saw Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey once in the theater. But I do remember, oh, geez, I want everything to be 10 years ago, but sadly it's not. So it's probably closer to 15 to 18 years ago. I remember being out Saturday night out at the bar with some friends, one of them being Steve Tuthill from The Beggars. And I don't know if you're familiar with the local band, The Beggars. So we were sitting there having a couple drinks, and it's getting to be about 11 o'clock. And I look at my watch and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to get out of here because they're doing a midnight screening of Bill and Ted at the Birmingham 8.
Nice.
And Steve and our other buddy, Eric Folkrod, look at us. We're like, let's go. Cash out and go off to the movie theater to see a midnight screening of Bill and Ted, which was just awesome. So I think I've only seen it on the big screen twice.
That's fun
maybe
because
that first time, and then the midnight revival.
That's fun because I think the only movie that I've seen like that is like Scott Pilgrim. I saw it when it came out in the theaters, and then when they would play it at other, at bars or something like that, I'm like, I'm gonna go watch Scott Pilgrim again. Hell yeah!
I saw Shrek 4 times in the theater.
Oh, nice!
Wow, is that the movie?
That's the most that's
the
ever
movie
happened.
You've seen the most.
I think then after that, it's only like doubles.
Yeah.
Like Jamie and I went and saw No Way Home after I went and saw it with you.
Right.
And stuff like that. But like, for some reason, my mom took me to see Shrek multiple times because it was so funny. And like, we all thought it was funny. So it was like, she's like, let's go see Shrek again. We go for like a matinee or something. And I'm like, then I got waterboarded with it when I worked at a gym where kids played it over and over. I'm like, you don't even understand these jokes.
Well, as far as playing it over and over, yeah, if you come in Comics and More and it's on any, one of the streaming channels, it's probably playing over and over and over.
Yep.
So what is like, you've seen some of the Bill and Ted movies, haven't you?
So we had this discussion because he had said like, oh yeah, we're going to do Bill and Ted. And I was like, you do realize the only Bill and Ted I've seen is the reboot version that they just did that has Kid Cudi in it. And he goes, you've never seen the original Bill and Ted? I'm like, no, it came out when I was born in 1988, you guys.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough.
So, like, that one didn't hit me at all at any point. But when you were talking about the historical aspect, my brain went right to National Treasure, because that's why I liked National Treasure, was there was so much historical fact in it.
Right.
And Nick Cage.
Oh, well, yeah. This is
I also
like pro Nick Cage household.
Yes.
Nick Cage is a little weird, but I do really enjoy the National Treasure movies.
Yeah, those are really good. I felt like all of the historical stuff, like even just the section where they were kind of talking about the dollar and how it like daylight savings time and stuff, like just stuff like that you wouldn't know. So I would assume that like with Bill and Ted, there's stuff that you learned from it sneakily.
Yeah, I didn't know his name was pronounced Socrates.
I don't know if that's not correct.
I learned that.
I think all of the historical inaccuracies actually do more to encourage the things you already know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes. So there's a couple of things that I think do that. One of my favorite ones, absolute favorite, is there's a moment when before they have to give their speech, they take all these historical figures to the mall. And of course they get in trouble. They end up in jail. That plays further into the story. They have to get them from jail and get them to this, to the speech. So Billy the Kid and Socrates are talking to two young girls in the mall. Well, Sigmund Freud comes up and starts just being, very serious about everything. And the women are laughing at him. And as they're laughing at him, he's holding a corn dog and it droops as they're laughing at him. So if you know anything about Freud, that's funny.
That's
if
so subtle. It's so great.
That up. There's so many subtle things. There's the scene when they're giving the speech and they're talking to Napoleon. And Napoleon's laying out his whole battle plan. And Ted says, I don't think it's going to work. Slams his thing on there and wipes all the pieces off the board. And I think that's fantastic because, of course, it didn't work. We know that it didn't work.
Right.
And so whether or not it's teaching you history sneakily, I think it's enforcing the things that you know and making you sort of chuckle and think a little harder about it. Even if you were maybe only middle of the road history student, I think there are things in there that you're like, what do they say about Joan of Arc? She's Noah's wife.
Yeah.
And of course, you know that's not like, what?
Right. It's two completely different time periods.
Right.
Yes. Like, huh? But yeah, I absolutely love those movies. And one thing that kind of sticks out to me that I kind of wanted to mention that I think was really fun is I read a story years ago where people are kind of misunderstood, right? Where people, a celebrity might encounter some people and say, hey, and they're like, whatever, old man, you don't know anything. So Ed Solomon tells this story, who is one of the creators of Bill and Ted. He tells this story where he's in a restaurant in LA and there's two people arguing about the origins of Men in Black, which he also co-wrote the movie. And he just kind of stands up and leans in and says, if you want clarification, I can actually explain that to you. And they essentially give him the whole, whatever, old man, and off he goes. And he tells this story now. And all I can think of, the minute I probably would have been, okay, what do you know? Well, I'm Ed Solomon. The Men in Black discussion would have been over. I'd have been like, I don't even care about Men in Black anymore. So you created Bill and Ted, huh? part of an improv class. Talk to me. So I think that's kind of funny. Like, oh man, can you imagine having Ed Solomon in front of you trying to talk to you about Men in Black? I wouldn't even care. Like, yeah, no, thank you, sir. I'd like to talk about something else.
So Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, the first movie, obviously, as we just discussed, came to you at a very formative time. But then they did the Bogus Journey movie in like 91. And then just recently, in the last couple of years, they did Bill and Ted Face the Music. What would you say, is Excellent Adventure still your favorite one?
So Excellent Adventure is absolutely my favorite. I think they're in order, right? So I like them first, the second, and the third. I like them in exactly that order. The first one to me is just so, you can almost never be better than the first because you wouldn't have had the sequel without the first. There's inherent value in that. And that first one just hit me, as you said, at that formative age. But then the second one, I'm still only 15.
Yeah.
So it's still, all of that stuff was just so hilarious to me. And so did you ever end up seeing the Bill and Ted movies, or you're just cold on this? You only saw the third one?
Yeah, I only saw Face the Music. So there was like things that I probably was asking in the middle of it. I was like, so is this phone booth like Doctor Who? Like, is this how this works? Like certain like stuff like that. I'm like, is this like American Doctor Who but funnier? But I don't know much else.
I don't think the phone booth was by happenstance. I mean, I think there was probably certainly something to that for sure.
Right.
But yeah, there's the second one, like you say, the way it's kind of hit me. There's two alien creatures in that end up being big heroes. Station is who they are. And when they meet them, they're playing a game of charades with Albert Einstein. And the answer is Smokey and the Bandit 3. Smokey is the bandit, which is generally my answer to most things when people are like, hey, what was that? Smokey and the Bandit 3.
Yes.
All of those things just totally hit me. One of the reasons that I don't really like Avengers Endgame is they look me dead in the eye and say all time travel movies are bullshit. And first of all, you cannot look me in the face and say that the Back to the Future logic of time travel doesn't work, and then do something so incredibly stupid as to take gems that you're going to put back, but you can't because you broke the gems open and turned them into something else. You could have just ignored it and said, this is how it works, like Bill and Ted. So when this is all figured out, we'll go back in time and steal my dad's keys and we'll put them right here.
Right.
Oh, I did steal my dad's keys. That works for me because you're just saying it does. And I don't have a problem with that. I think those movies are just so fun and they buy into the things that they're doing. Even in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, they go to heaven and hell. Like they're doing the whole thing with death, and instead of playing chess, they're playing Twister. What is that Godard movie with the Seventh Seal? Like, right? Like they're parodying the Seventh Seal, for crying out loud. By the time we get to the third movie, which is the only one you've seen, some of the things that I love about that is, had they made that movie 15, 20 years earlier, it wouldn't be this.
Yeah.
But it has to be this because it's where we're at now. And there's a moment in that movie where you have current Ted. They go into the future to see if those guys wrote the song. And he's looking at old man Ted, essentially like on his deathbed. And old man Ted says, you know, Ted, I feel like I never really got to know you. Well, Ted, that was kind of my fault. What? You're watching Ted have an existential crisis. Their whole lives, they had been told that they are going to shape the future by writing this song. And then they don't. Except they did. We saw them do it at the end of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, but they're never going to see the future that they create actualized, right? We're not going to see that happen. So they're left with feeling like they never accomplished anything in this life. They had one purpose that they're never going to see. And there's just complete existential dread for Bill and Ted of all things.
For sure. And I actually, I liked how that movie wrapped up with that, like, it's not necessarily them, but possibly their offspring that end up shaping the future and how important that is. And I thought that was a fun, like, I don't know that I need another Bill and Ted movie with like the daughters, but I thought it was a nice way to put a bow on the whole franchise.
I agree. And so I'm still of the opinion, though, that they solved the first issue. They did write the song. I mean, for crying out loud, as Kiss, they did a cover of Stryper's God Gave Rock and Roll to You.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. It just happened to be God gave rock and roll to you.
And amazing. And the whole thing, like, for crying out loud, they united the world. They were on every single television station because of Chuck DeNomalos, who was Rufus's gym teacher. They did write a song, but something went wrong with time and space, which was probably also their fault because they were traveling through time when they shouldn't have been in the first place.
Right.
So we need another song. We need another song to rectify time and space. I thought it was a beautiful progression.
I can't wait to show you the first two movies. The second movie, it's funny because the second movie hit me at a very formidable age. I think I was like 16 or 17 when that movie came out. I remember that was like the summer I discovered MTV, and they had a whole special about Bill and Ted, and they were playing the trailers, and I got to see Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves doing interviews and stuff, and they had a concert, and like the soundtrack comes out and it's got Primus and Megadeth and Faith No More on it. And it was just like, wow, rock and roll. I like this stuff. This is great. And it was very similar to what you were saying too, is like, they talk like Michelangelo. So like, all right, it's something I can relate to. This is fun. Did you ever, did you develop a love for some of the actors or actresses that were in the Bill and Ted movies, like Alex Winter, Keanu Reeves, because of Bill and Ted?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. In every single way. Absolutely. There was, I've been going to explore Freaked, right, which is Alex Winter movie. I've got to find that. Certainly would watch anything that Keanu Reeves was in. Didn't realize that I had actually had a crush on one of the Princess Babes for years before I had seen that. So, can you name anything else that one of the Princess Babes was in?
No, I don't recall because I don't remember who those actresses were.
One of those Princess Babes is the French foreign exchange student from Better Off Dead.
Oh my God, you're right. Yeah. Okay. Now I can place it in my head. Holy shit.
I had so much love for Better Off Dead as a kid because it was on cable all the time. So I've seen them. I could act that movie out as a one-man stage play. And then you get to Bill and Ted, never put together that it was necessarily the same girl. Just she was one of the Princess Babes. Like, again, I was very like ready to buy into everything that happened in that movie. Like that really is a historical feature. Like that, all of that stuff is history. It's fact.
They went back and they found two princes and they saved them from royal ugly dudes. Absolutely. The other thing I wanted to ask you is when it comes to time travel stories, had you experienced time travel stories before Bill and Ted, or was that your introduction?
Well, Back to the Future, right?
Okay.
Back to the Future would have been before that because that's what, 85?
Yep.
So certainly Back to the Future, my grandma showed me all kinds of strange things when I was a child, and she would wake me up in the middle of the night to watch Twilight Zone with her. Because she didn't like to watch them by herself. And one of the things that I remember her waking me up to watch, and I was a little kid, was a movie called Time After Time. H.G. Wells creates the time machine to accidentally go back in time and bring Jack the Ripper to modern day New York. It stars Malcolm McDowell and Mary Steenburgen.
Dang, that sounds awesome.
adaptation on television about 5 years ago, and I don't think anybody watched it, but the original movie was incredible. But yeah, I've always kind of loved time travel movies. I find them absolutely fascinating. Although I don't actually believe in time travel, because the minute time travel exists, it exists everywhere.
Right.
And everybody will fuck it up.
Yeah. It's,
well, right.
We can't have nice things.
Right. So we can't have
there's no way that time travel can exist, because if it is, let's say it's created in the year 3507, someone from the year 3515 would have already been here.
Right.
This would already been figured out. We'd already figured this whole damn thing out.
Well,
certainly probably wouldn't have the billionaires we've got unless these jackasses are from 3515.
I was going to say it could have been the aliens, but Tom DeLonge was right.
He was.
Just a couple more things, Chris, while we talked about Bill and Ted, because I mean, I love Bill and Ted. You love Bill and Ted. You are soon to love Bill and Ted. Once you see the other two movies.
So now I wish we had spent this time actually watching Bill and Ted together.
It's true.
Well, I was going to say one of the local bands, Bathroom of the Future, that I'm friends with, have a song called "Watching Bill and Ted Outside." Have you heard it?
Oh, I have not.
Yeah, you can look it up on streaming. It's about going to the drive-in theater to see the third Bill and Ted movie. It's charming. It's fantastic. But the other thing I want to ask you about is Bill and Ted, to a smaller degree than most of our beloved franchises, actually did break out into. They had a few video games. They had comic books. They had a Saturday morning TV show and some action figures. I think there was a breakfast cereal. And they had a live action show briefly. Did you partake in any of that stuff?
So there was a live action TV show. The two guys that played Bill and Ted in the live action TV show did the voices on the Saturday morning show for the second season. The first 10 episodes are actually done by Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Partook in all of that. I bought, a box of Bill and Ted trading cards from Pro Set. The cereal was from Ralston. I actually, in the other room, I have a unopened box of Bill and Ted cereal that still has the little tape case.
Yes.
They did have action figures. I do have the 2-pack that has Bill and Ted that you can plug into a Walkman.
Excellent.
Yes, I am obsessed. I don't know if you can see, I am wearing my St. Demas High School football rules shirt.
Absolutely.
This, my buddy Scott Boink, who was in the amino acids, he would do one-off screen prints of shirts. And I'd asked him to screen print me one of these. He said, I won't ever print it for anyone else. And then Bubba McKenzie from the Bumpin' Uglies is like, I know it was Chris. Just tell him you're making me one. Like, yeah, Bubba can have one too.
Yeah, there's actually that reference is actually also a title of an Atari song, but I don't know if it has anything to do with Bill and Ted.
I'm sure it's
like context
reference
in the song itself.
Yeah.
So when I saw the shirt, I was like, wait a minute, is that a Bill and Ted reference?
It is.
It is. And there is no way that band did it without it being. It is an iconic scene from the movie.
Yeah. I just wonder if like the song itself, like the lyrics and stuff, do any or talking about Bill and Ted, and I just don't know it.
Maybe.
That's the part that I'm confused about.
I'll have to see. Well, you'll have to watch the movie and I'll have to listen to the song.
There we go.
Compare notes.
And again, it just goes to show you, so far reaching. Like, so many people love Bill and Ted in so many subtle ways that you might not have even realized how it has permeated the culture. Some silly franchise about two knuckleheads who almost fail high school history ends up being a thing that so many of us latch onto.
Now, with that in mind, is Bill and Ted the reason why everyone got into Keanu in the first place?
I think so. I think that's pretty much Keanu's first big role that we all recognize him from.
I would think it was River's Edge.
Maybe.
River's
I know,
Edge,
like, mine is Matrix. Like,
right.
I didn't see him until way later.
Which is funny that the first time I saw Matrix, I actually thought it was a haphazard sequel to Johnny Mnemonic.
Yeah.
They also
and then obviously the movie was much better, but
they had Keanu in the Much Ado About Nothing Shakespeare adaptation as the villain. And but the way that he portrays it, he sounds like the Bill and Ted side of it, where he sounds like dopey and stonery. And it's hard to take him seriously. That's so like I think that might be the first exposure I had to him, because I remember going, I can't watch this guy in anything.
Right. That
He's
was
awful.
for a long time. Even up to the first
Do it.
Matrix, we were like,
Yeah.
oh, it's Keanu.
It's
Whoa.
Keanu, whoa.
But
Yeah.
I think he's definitely grown out of it. Like you don't watch
Oh,
a
yeah.
John Wick movie going, oh, he's gonna go, whoa, dude.
Right. But you know, you figure he goes from the Bill and Ted movies, and then shortly after that was Point Break.
Yeah.
So we're
Which
that
I
same
also have
day,
not
then.
seen.
Okay, I'll put that on the list.
You've
We're gonna
not
list.
seen the original Point Break?
I haven't seen either. So I know there's like a reboot version of it or whatever. I get the Iron Man joke to Thor. That is it. That is my basis of knowing what Point Break is. We have a dry erase board on the fridge that is now just movies.
Yeah.
And every time that there's a movie he realizes I don't watch, he writes it down.
Right on the board, and then when we have a night where we're going to watch a movie, go to the board and find a movie.
I'm still damaged after watching Strange Days, honestly. So
I'm sorry. Yes, I just watched Strange Days for our
I remember
Patreon
really liking
podcast.
I remember really liking that movie.
It was good. It was just there was a lot of traumatic things in it at the same time, and I was just like, "Oh, this is heavy."
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, fair enough. I haven't seen that movie in probably easily 20 years, but I remember really liking it.
There's a lot of there's a lot of rape and
there's
a correction.
There's a first person rape scene in the middle of the movie that I don't know is I don't want to give away all my Patreon exclusive opinions.
That's true, yeah.
For our double feature, but I will, up front, there's a rape scene in the beginning, and near the end there's like a police brutality scene that really feels odd in 2023.
Yeah.
But the one thing that's really funny
to me.
One thing that's really funny is that one of the callers on the radio when he's driving says something about it's got to be the end of the world because everything sucks and gas is over $3 a gallon.
And you laughed.
I did.
I'm like, man, we had 5 when I turned 18.
Right.
Gas was 90 cents a gallon when I started driving a car.
I remember when I was a kid, it was like 94, 95 cents. It started getting over $1 when I was like, in like that 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
But by the time that I was able to drive and had a car, it was like $4.65. So that sucked.
Well, Chris, before we
I do want to go back real quick and touch on where you had mentioned the questionable things in Strange Days. It's sort of disheartening, but I'm glad we've caught up and realized these things are horrible. But even when you said, oh, that's in there, I was like, oh, I didn't remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were so many questionable things in movies of that time period.
Oh, for sure.
That we completely reject now, that when you go back and look at those things, like, oh, how did we ever think that was okay?
Right.
And I'm grateful that there is nothing really like that in the Bill and Ted movies. There is one thing that I wish wasn't there, because I was like, oh, they actually got by doing pretty much everything right.
Yeah.
That one moment where something happens, Bill thinks Ted is dead, they hug, they release each other, and then use a slur.
They do.
Oh, no.
It's true.
And I'm like, oh, what, man? But aside from that movie pretty much does most things right other than that.
Well, that's pretty good. But then I don't have to worry about being traumatized by it.
No, not by Bill and Ted.
No, not by Bill and Ted.
No. So before we let you go, Chris, usually I like to do a segment called What Have We Learned, where I'll quiz acronym about things we've learned about Bill and Ted. This week, our What Have We Learned is going to be a little different. This is, so there are 8 historical figures in Bill and Ted. And as we mentioned earlier, Bill and Ted and Doctor Who kind of share a DNA. There are, let me count, 4 of those figures have appeared in both Doctor Who and Bill and Ted.
Okay.
And I'm wondering between the two of you if you guys can guess which ones have appeared in both or have not appeared. Okay. So I'll name them individually, and then you and Chris both you can deliberate if you want to, and then figure out, do you think those guys are in both, or are they only in one or the other?
Okay.
So I've never seen Doctor Who, so I'm going in fairly cold in that way. I mean, I'll know all the historical figures in Bill and Ted.
Right. Exactly.
So it basically, I have to remember if it was in Doctor Who, you have to remember if it was in Bill and Ted, and then we go final answer.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Team effort.
All right.
We'll start with Billy the Kid.
Billy the Kid is in Bill and Ted.
Yes, he is.
I don't remember any westerns.
Any westerns in Doctor Who?
No.
Well, Billy the Kid was only in Bill and Ted.
Okay.
So you guys got that one right for sure. Rosa Parks.
Not in Bill and Ted.
She may have been in Doctor Who, but I don't know if I saw one with her in it.
So
if it was, it would have been with the woman doctor.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
That's your guess?
Yeah.
That's the correct yes. Yep. Rosa Parks was on Doctor Who. See, there you go. Game's a little difficult, but not too difficult. Napoleon.
Yeah.
Napoleon Bonaparte.
Definitely in Bill and Ted, yes.
I feel like he had to be. There's no way.
He was in both. He was
Okay.
actually Napoleon was.
We're doing pretty good at this.
In the 1964 Reign of Terror story,
Which I
from
never
Doctor Who.
saw, but I just was
But
like,
it's
there's no way that
solid guess.
Napoleon wasn't in Doctor Who.
Solid guess.
I bet he wasn't nearly as funny in Doctor Who.
Probably
not. No, definitely not.
He just shoving his hand in his jacket.
Right. Exactly. Sigmund Freud was in Bill
Definitely in
and Ted.
Bill and Ted.
But was he ever in Doctor Who?
No. That's just my gut.
Yeah.
I don't think so, because then they would have to talk about sex in Doctor Who.
Okay. Well, Sigmund Freud was actually in 2 of the audiobooks.
Okay, that's kind of cheap, though.
Does that count?
Sigmund Freud has appeared in both Bill and Ted and Doctor Who. All right, we'll go with just a couple more here.
Because
How
if we're
about,
counting the audiobooks, then you could probably stump me by hitting some of the historical figures that are in the cartoon
Right.
for Bill and Ted.
That's true. See, I did find an easy list of everyone who was in a Doctor Who, but I could not find an easy list of Bill and Ted.
Because it goes crazy in the cartoon.
And the
going
comics.
somewhere different.
The Marvel comics,
right.
they went everywhere.
Yes.
All right, let's say Vincent van Gogh.
Yes.
Not in Bill and Ted.
Not in Bill and Ted, but in Doctor
Doctor
Who.
Who.
Absolutely.
That's like my favorite episode of Doctor Who. It's so...
There you go. Abraham Lincoln.
Definitely in Bill and Ted.
I would have to assume yes.
That's correct. Abraham Lincoln showed up in the 1965 story, The Chase.
Okay. Once again, not one I saw.
And
I did not go back that far. I went Christopher Eccleston to
That's another thing. One of Lincoln's lines in Bill and Ted is 80 and 20 minutes ago. A score is like 20 years. So
Right.
it doesn't like what? 80 years and 20 minutes ago?
Exactly.
We embarked on an
80,
adventure with
80
Bill and
years
Ted?
and 20 minutes ago.
So even as a kid, when you say what did you learn? Like, did you learn real history or anything? I remember seeing that and going, no.
that's right.
Like, it's funny.
I feel like that would be the thing now, is that like watching it in 2023, I probably would start going, wait a minute, and then Googling things immediately. Like, wait a minute, that's not correct, right? And the thing is like, actually, Tony found this very funny, is that I said that at one point I wanted to be a history teacher. That went completely off the board as I got older. But at that thing is that I was obsessed with Jeopardy. So I'm wondering how much I actually will know is wrong just based on
Right.
crap
Just
that's in
while
my
you're
head.
watching it. It's like, no, that
I have
wasn't invented yet.
I have so many useless things in my head. It's not even funny. Like, so many useless things. I cannot remember what I ate for breakfast, but I can sing a country song from 1994 verbatim. Like, it's not normal.
That is why we all get along.
Yes.
Because all
Yeah,
of us
absolutely.
all of us have useless things in our heads.
Yay.
And we enjoy talking about them. Chris, thank you so much for doing the podcast. Is there anything you want to plug?
So as always, I would generally plug Comics and More at 28059 John R. Road, Madison Heights, Michigan. Not really working on any crazy projects at the moment, so I guess just come into the comic shop and talk about Bill and Ted or any other random fun topic.
You can always tell when I'm missing an issue from my own local comic store. It's usually when I show up.
Yeah, yes, but then we get to talk all kinds of random nonsense, and I love it.
We do.
And
And
I'm really,
if we do find you on social, make sure to look out for any random signings that happen, because you tend to bring random people in sometimes.
That's
which
true.
is-
we
That's
do.
where I met
That's-
Danhausen. So
It is. Yeah, we've had Danhausen in there. What Will Wheaton has been in the store. We've had Voyager 3 play a set in the store.
Yeah.
We've had some really, really fun stuff going on in there. Actually, so I don't have a date yet, but take a close look because we are hoping to promote Dom Ruggio Mess Bucket Comics issue about Darren McCarty. And
Excellent.
We're hoping to get Darren into the store to do a signing. We don't have a date yet. I was just talking with Dom about it on Friday. So
awesome. I actually
watch the
photographed
social.
some of those jerseys for him at one point, so I know him pretty well.
Yeah, awesome. Right on.
Yeah.
Everybody in this town knows everybody else.
It's funny like that.
Especially the nerdy groups. We all know each other.
Yep.
Yes. So
make sure you're following Comics and More on Facebook or any of the other social media so you can keep up with that stuff. And like Chris said, come in and talk to him. He's a fun guy, as you can see right here.
Absolutely. I do what I can.
Thanks, Chris.
So guys, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And Acronym, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you think about Bill and Ted.
Yes.
There we go.
I will have to watch it and then give my response on the next show or something.
There you go.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right.
Guys, have a great night.
You too. So much fun to talk to Mr. Chris Brown of Comics and More about Bill and Ted. That's like low key one of my probably favorite movie franchises.
Yeah.
Like it's funny that and Back to the Future are like both time travel stories that hit you and you're like at just the right age.
It's really silly because of how much I like history and how much I like stoner people. You'd think that I would have watched this by now. But
That's the fascinating thing too, is that it's never, I don't think there's a joke about them doing drugs in either of them.
no, they just sound like it.
Yeah, they're just dumb.
Yeah. You just say, "Whoa, dude."
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're gonna watch. We're gonna watch both the Bill and Ted movies, and you're gonna understand where what's his face from Stranger Things comes from.
Yeah. Argyle.
Argyle.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna be like, oh, so that actor was just watched Bill and Ted and was like, be like those guys. Yeah, check out Chris's store, Comics and More, very cool comic store here in the Motor City. And before we wrap the show up, as always, it's time for our serotonin boost. Did you want to go first this week?
Sure. So this morning I got a article sent to me from one of my clients, and it said explore an abandoned slaughterhouse, and I start clicking through the images and realize I've been playing in this building for years and did not know it was a slaughterhouse, and I was really tickled by that because it was like, it's not like there's meat hooks hanging in there or anything else, but the more and more I was just like going through it, I'm like, oh my god, how did I not know what this building was?
Didn't notice the drains in the floor or like...
It just didn't occur to me. I had just been in a bunch of random warehouses, but I never thought, like, I knew what Fisher Body was.
Yeah.
Like, that was like a car building plant. But like some of these other ones, it's like you don't really know what their origin is, and I'm not like that much of a nerd. My nephew Michael basically more so, he'll look up everything before we go anywhere.
Yeah.
When we used to explore. And I don't do that. I just go and I poke around and see what I find. So it's really funny that he sent me that today, and I've been like diving into all these archives. I was really excited because a hard drive that I thought died was not dead. So
that's always like such a, oh my god, what is in here that I haven't thought of for years.
Yeah, now I'm just afraid of turning off the computer without copying everything, so I have to leave the computer on and wait for it to copy over all the way.
Right.
But yeah, that was my serotonin boost really this week. It was like between the finding out that place was a slaughterhouse and it's just been playing in there the whole time, and my hard drive being a thing.
Right.
So it doesn't really like excite anybody else but me, but happy for me.
I don't know if I've used it already since we started the podcast, but my serotonin boost this week is the return of What We Do in the Shadows for, I believe it's in its 5th season. And we've been catching up as the episodes have been coming out every week on Hulu. And it was episode 3 or 4 where they had the gay pride parade.
Yeah.
Which was absolutely batshit insane.
It was like they pulled 3 episodes into one episode, and it's just bonkers. And after we got done with it, I was like, why wasn't that the finale?
Yeah.
But it probably coincided with Pride. so.
Every character in that episode had such a wild arc that it felt like an episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Yeah, it was bonkers.
But then we just caught up on the last 2 weeks, and I guess the episode from 2 weeks ago was the one where they end up on the evening news.
Yes.
And they take over the broadcast. And that was hilarious as well.
Yeah, that one's really good. It seems like they're just like, okay, well, what would be really weird for a vampire to do?
Yes.
And we're gonna go send them to do it.
Yeah, like the main concept of both the movie and the show is filming vampires like they're on The Office, and they're all idiots.
Yeah.
And you don't understand how they haven't revealed themselves to the public, why the public has no idea that vampires or werewolves or any of this stuff actually exists, and them kind of stumbling their way through keeping their secrets.
Right, exactly. And they have one former human. He's not human anymore, but he was their familiar. And it's like, because the whole show is based on like that there's a camera crew following him around and they're talking, even his family, Guillermo's family, is just like acceptant there's a camera crew there with him.
Yeah.
And they're just like, they're still making that documentary about the railroad? Because he told his
That's what
family
told his
he
family.
works for the railroad, so he worked nights.
Yeah.
And it's really because he's with these vampires. Like, when does Guillermo sleep, that poor man?
I don't know. It's very it will pull you in with the charm of a bunch of idiot vampires, especially if you've played any tabletop games with vampires, as I know King Mob and myself have. But then it really has sticking power in that it's very heartfelt. Like every character they're all terrible to each other, but they all have a special kinship with each other. And at the same time, every season they'll reveal a new like interest or part of somebody's character. Like I was saying earlier, I love that the Laszlo character this season has gone full mad scientist and is like just all about science, but it's like insane 16th century science.
Yeah, he's got like energy transfer machines and things like that. And John Slattery popped up in one of the episodes we were watching. He like ran over one of the vampire's feet, and then he starts talking to him, but because the one guy's an energy vampire, the more interest he's being told, he's like slowly dying.
Yes.
And it's great in general.
It's a really fun show. I recommend it very much to anybody that likes watching sitcoms.
Yeah.
And that's going to do it for this week's Really Big Fan Pod. Thanks again, Chris, for hanging out with us this week. And thank you guys for watching us on Twitch on Wednesday mornings at 11:30. And for anyone who's downloaded the podcast, we appreciate you as well. We do have a Patreon page over at patreon.com/reallyBigFanPod. That is where you can get the aforementioned Patreon exclusive Really Big Fan Pod double feature, where myself and Mike Pandoff are talking all about movies. And yeah, maybe somebody in the chat said new podcast, Acronyms High History. Maybe we'll put that up on the Patreon.
That could definitely be funny. I just get like completely bonkers high and talk about music.
Or history.
Or
you
history,
just get blitzed and then try and tell us about history.
I mean, that's just like drunk history, though. I need to add something a little different to it. I'll workshop it.
Yeah, workshop it. Absolutely. Follow us on social media at Really Big Fan Pod, and check out our nonstop garage sale over on eBay, also at Really Big Fan Pod. We will catch you guys next week.
Bye.